Guys, hope you're all having a good day. This is just going to be a sort of little breakdown on something I did the other day using the new F16 model from Production Crate. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. This is what we're going to have a look at. Right, so first off, this isn't for beginners, it's more for intermediate users. I've set up a composition of 1920 by 10. Let's have a look at composition settings. 1920 by 1080, 30 frames a second for 11 seconds. Okay, I've actually added Element 3D, and we're going to go into the scene setup. Here we are in Element 3D, and I've imported the Jet F16 Falcon. You will probably have to reassign its textures. So once you've done that, the other thing is, well, if you look over here, the vertices and faces are quite large. So the first thing I recommend about any model, if you go scroll down and you find optimized mesh, if you click that, and when you see these numbers, they will drop, which also makes it easier to render. I've also got in a pilot, which we've just taken from the video Copilot pack, disabled the plane, and I've just stuck him in. Where are we? So on group 5 I've got a sphere, and in this sphere I've actually loaded into its diffuse channel the HDRI, I think it's Ocean 2 from Production Crate, I think, into there. Excuse me. And if you go scroll down to the settings, everything else, I mean, you've got diffuse should be 0, everything here should be 0, and then when you go down to illumination, where is illumination, just make sure it's set to 100% using diffuse color. Okay, bring it back to 100%, and if you look at the size of the sphere, I think it's 10,000, so it's really big. Now the reason for using this is that if you just use the HDRI as the background, it will rotate with everything, but if you actually are traveling through or traveling towards something, it doesn't actually adjust. So by doing this, you can actually sort of fly, and the clouds will get bigger as you get towards them. And if I click on the environment channel as well, I've actually obviously got the same thing into the environment channel there as well. Okay, so we're going to go back to the main composition. So back in the main After Effects, you can see you've got the plane, and you've obviously got the environment lighting it, and the sky. Now if you remember, I put sky, I put it on to control number 5, or group 5. I'll turn that off for a minute, and I'll just go to render settings, and I scroll down to the environment. If I show in background, what I've done is I've actually rotated the environment so it matches the same angle as I did my sky, which I rotated. Okay, so I'm not going to show it in background anymore, take that off. And I'm going to turn back on group number 5, and if I go into sky and go into its rotation, not its rotation, actually its position, I don't know, basically was as it was. Alright, okay, so again I've got plane here, and on the plane I've literally got two keyframes, two position keyframes, one here and one down here. Now to make it so that the plane, or the camera, follows the plane, I've created a 3D null. So I've connected the camera to the null, and then the null to the plane, which means it will follow as it goes along. Now if I don't do that, if I disable these two, none and none, the plane will shoot off. Where's it gone? Oh yeah, it'll shoot off, which is fine for some effects, but I actually want the camera to follow it, so I'll just undo those just a couple of times. Okay, so we got this. Okay, now the next thing let's see, what should we do? We'll do the lights. Now I've got a light which I've named A. The reason for that will become apparent in a minute. And the actual light is a parallel light. I've got it set to 2500, cast shadows 100%. Because what I did is I generated a position over here. Now if I show you Element 3D, and if I go to Utilities, and you can generate from a 2D position, you can generate a 3D position. Click Generate, and what I did then basically was get the position parameters here, copied them, and pasted them to light A. So the light A is exactly in the right place for the effect. As you see, the light comes along, and you've got the reflection there. Okay, so let me just have a look. I've also got here on adjustment layer 2, I've got a camera shake. Now I've just used one by Red Giant Universe. Production Crate have got their own, which is fantastic. For some reason mine is not installed properly on here, so I've got that for a bit of camera shake. It's set to basically like a handheld. I've also got cine bars, which again mine are by Red Giant. On Premiere I've got mine from Production Crate. Why they're not on this one I don't know, but anyway, put your cine bars on whatever you want to set them to for whichever format you're doing. Okay, so we've got that bit of camera shake there going on. I've also got an ambient light just to fill in. It's the same colour. It's just filling in. Just set to 15%. Just filling in just a little bit of the shadows. What I think they could do with filling in. Okay, before we go into sort of render parameters and things like that, I'm just going to go into the flare. I'm just going to solo it for a moment. So we've got a flare, and if we go to options, excuse me, I've just got this. What's this one called? Can't remember what this one's called, but it's just one of the optical flares out of Video Copilot. Again, there's lots of flares out there. You can choose whichever you want, but I just found this one. I thought this looked quite nice. What I've done is I've got it to track lights, and selected lights are on, but it's also name starts with A. So what it's going to do is track my parallel light. Now, because the plane actually doesn't fly in front of the rays, I don't have to set an obscuration layer. Obviously, if it did fly in front of them, then we'd either use create the plane again to duplicate the plane, set it to an alpha matte or luma matte, and so you could obscure it. Some of the lens flare effects out there, I think Boris Continuum do it where you can obscure layers natively, but okay, so I'm going to on the side of the flare, it's got the flare going on there. Okay, so next down to render settings, I'm going to stick this down to full. Hoping it won't crash. I seem to have had a problem with my system the last few days. Is it going to crash? Let's hope not. Oh no, thank God for that. Right, so I'm going to go back to the Element 3D layer and let's have a look and see. Let's close everything up and we go one by one. So we're going to go to render settings. Actually, I'm going to go render mode. Let's put it onto full render as well. Okay, and let's go to render settings. First off, ray traced. Clicking on ray traced for ray trace shadows from my parallel light. Might take just a couple of seconds just to register those. Okay, then we're going to go to ambient occlusion using ray traced as well. I always tend to base my bump my samples up to about 6 minimum. It just, unless you want a really dirty grain, but 6 is always quite good. Then we scroll back down again. Let's have a look and see what we've got. There's no fog, motion blur. I've got to comp settings, but there's not a lot of motion blur on 6. And I've enabled the motion blur here. I just need to enable the motion blur for the project. And that is it. So then we render this out. Excuse me. Render this out, and then what I did was take it into, so I've got a bit of a cough there, took it into did some Magic Bullet looks for colour correction, and then took it into Premiere to add the sound and music. Hope this has been some help. Any questions, leave a comment, be fantastic. I hope this has been some help to you guys. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Okay, cheers, bye.